Welcome to Hot Topic, the show that brings the controversial, the political and the provocative to East Yorkshire and Northern Lincolnshire. Today I'm joined by two representatives of the uniformed services. It's my pleasure to welcome Chief Inspector Will Jenkins, who's in charge of operations and neighbourhood policy in North East Lincolnshire. Chief Inspector, very welcome.
Thank you.
And Claire Tate from the Fire Brigade, that is the Fire and Rescue Service, the Community Safety Manager for North East Lincolnshire. That's a good start. Why is it not called a fire brigade anymore?
We do so much more. We do so much more in terms of rescue, working with the communities, etc. So it's not just a fire brigade where you typically put out fires. We do so much more wide-ranging things.
I'll just move on. Thank you for that. Will Jenkins, first of all, the crime statistics in North East Lincolnshire, it's higher than average in the country, isn't it?
It's easy to say really that we've got a demanding locality, and I think that's been the case for some period of time. But what has been taking place is obviously we've had a reduction in crime for the last sort of decade really. For the last 6 to 7 months we've had a demanding period of time placed on not just the police service but all of the services really. So we are starting to see an uptake rather than a downturn.
Well, what would you say the cause of that is, the recent uptake?
It would be difficult to say, and I'm not saying that because I'm trying to get out the answer.
Sure.
There's all sorts of causation factors with regards to why people commit crime. But what is clearly a benefit for ourselves is to work in that partnership to make sure that we do all that we can to reduce crime in North East Lincolnshire, and we do that obviously on a regular basis, and certainly at least on a fortnightly basis. All of the partners get together to discuss what action we can take to stop that.
We will move on to that partnership. I was just trying to isolate a cause of crime here. This is an age-old question.
Yeah.
But we're living in an age of austerity. There's a great deal less money around than there is. It's excellent news that the crime rate's been declining over the decade, but 5 years ago there was an economic disaster, and as people have less money, all the public services are reporting that they're not only dealing with their old regulars in those services that public authorities looking after people, but they're dealing with new people who hadn't previously needed help, who are newly vulnerable, and of course might also be newly vulnerable to the temptation to commit crime.
Yeah.
When you steal is when you don't have any money.
Yeah, and again, that's like you said, that's not something new. There's all sorts of reasons why people do go on to commit crime, and I am sure the social reforms and people struggling financially has had some impact. What I can't tell you is to what degree that is. We have a lot of people that commit first-time offences. Obviously, the work that we're undertaking is to stop that happening in the first place, and if somebody does commit one, to work together to stop them repeating that.
And a similar question to you, Claire. There's the fire brigade, as you say, doesn't just put out fires, but what are the incidents that the fire brigade's dealing with these days?
A whole range of incidents really, anything from the topical flooding that we had last week to fires in domestic properties, in commercial properties, RTCs, road traffic collisions, animal rescues. It's really, really wide ranging. Chemical incidents, I could go on and on really.
That's a remarkable, versatile job, that you can deal with a chemical incident in a factory on the South Bank and you can get a cat out of a tree.
Well, cats up trees are not the things that we do most of, but yes, we could do should we need to, yes.
How does the Fire and Rescue Service and how do the Fire and Rescue Service and the police force work together? There's a partnership that you hinted at earlier on. What is the relationship between the two?
Well, from our perspective, what I've just mentioned in terms of the fire service, what does it do? You asked me of incidents and that's what I gave you, but other than that, it's very much community based, and that is a large percentage of the work that we do. And obviously that involves all of our partners, the police being a heavy partner with us really. We do a lot of work together, but it involves also the NHS, the probation service. So we do lots of partnership working, and it's about teamwork, it's about regular meetings, good communications, collaboration.
And how do you, I mean, the important thing is to communicate with the public, presumably.
Absolutely.
How do you, Chief Inspector, how do you project your message into the community?
Well, obviously we come across people on a day-to-day basis, whether it be they're an offender or a victim of crime, so they have obviously physical experience with the service. But that is a very small percentage of the wider public. So messages, and obviously we're running through a series of messages at the minute up to come into Christmas to prevent crime taking place, is that we will use all sorts of forums, and it can be leaflet drops, it can be community meetings, it can be use of media forums. What we're trying to do is use as much of the social media, which is obviously the newest forum. So we're trying to use as much as we can with Twitter and Facebook and everything else, and likewise with the other partners who are using the similar service. We talk to each other and try and bounce ideas off each other. So, and what we are trying to do is have common messages. So the media teams between each services will talk to each other and try and have common messages.
And what are those common messages? What are both organisations trying to say together?
A lot of it's typically about prevention, isn't it?
Yes.
It's typically a prevention message. One of the initiatives that we've got going at the minute, which is a police-run initiative, the fire service are partnering on, is street cred, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's very much a partnership approach, giving out prevention messages to the public.
And the precautions that people should be taking to prevent crime similar to the precautions that people should be taking to prevent harm, accidents?
Yeah. Very much so, yeah.
And a lot of it's around getting people to think. So if people are thinking, for example, if you're looking at a simplistic crime point of view, lock your door. Likewise with the fire service, it's turn your hob off. So it's having that conscious thought about what are you doing, why are you doing what you're doing. Think about it before it becomes you become a victim.
And how would this prevention simply, most people I would hope lock their doors and pay attention when they've got the hob going. I know you'll tell me wrong, but how much would that reduce crime, reduce fires? What percentage of people are there out there who go out without locking their doors and leave the hob on when they leave the house?
That's a difficult one to answer, isn't it? We don't know how many are actually out there. We can only tell you what the incidents really occur. What we can say is, I suppose, from the services point of view, is we try to use a change in behaviour to save lives approach, which is trying to get those messages out there to make sure that people have the right behaviours rather than the wrong ones. So the habit of locking your door, the habit of closing your doors on the night before you go to bed, taking your mobile phone with you. If you're locking your door, put the keys in a place where they're not easily accessible to a burglar but easily accessible to yourself to get out.
One particular incident that is going to be common to both of your services is arson. And we do have, well, you can tell me what is the incidence of arson in North East Lincolnshire?
Incidents of arson in North East Lincolnshire for us have come down over the years. Particularly Bonfire Night was a really good year this year for us in North East Lincolnshire. We did very well. We didn't have very high incidence of arson at all.
Is there usually a high incidence of arson on Bonfire Night? Do people use it as cover to?
It's difficult to say, isn't it? What is a lit bonfire and what is an unattended deliberately set? It's very difficult to ascertain, really.
Obviously, the original Bonfire Night had a degree of arson.
Yes, obviously.
And how easily detectable is arson? How easy is it to catch the criminals?
It depends, really. If we have somebody that commits a number of, what we do is obviously the services speak to each other on a regular basis, and where there is a trend, we certainly do speak to each other. And there are methods that the fire service has to maintain that evidence for ourselves. They do their own investigations.
There's a very sort of CSI crime, isn't it?
Yeah, there is some of that, and then intelligence sharing as well. And the fire brigade have things like CCTV on appliances, so things like that can capture evidence when they turn up.
Why do people commit this destructive crime?
Why do people commit any crime?
Well, if they're hungry, they'll steal food. I suppose if they're cold, they set fire to the building?
Well, possibly. There's a lot of information out there from a lot of different researchers as to why people commit arson.
We'll have to come back to that after the break. Thank you very much. I'm here with Claire Tate of the Fire and Rescue Service in North East Lincolnshire and Chief Inspector Will Jenkins of the Humberside Police. Please join us again after the break. Goodbye. Welcome back to Hot Topic. I'm joined by Claire Tate of the Humberside Fire and Rescue Service and Chief Inspector Will Jenkins of Humberside Police. Claire, we were just talking about arson, but most fires are accidental, and cooking fires seem very frequent in North East Lincolnshire.
They are very frequent in North East Lincolnshire. We do have a problem service-wide with cooking fires, but we do have a lot that are occurring in this area. 24 in this area since April this year to date, and most of them are in relation to grill pans, residual fat as a prime example. We do have a big issue.
Why, particularly in North East Lincolnshire though, are the people of North East Lincolnshire particularly fond of crêpe Suzette?
It's a trend thing really. Sometimes last year we had a problem in Hull with it, and we also had a problem in North Lincolnshire. This year we seem to have a problem in our area. The second on the incidence is also smoking as well. We have an issue with that. We have particular campaigns that are going out at the moment, and they've been going out all of the summer, and they're in relation to unattended cooking is a killer.
It's unattended cooking, that's the cause of it. It's people setting on a gas stove and walking away.
It's very difficult to determine exactly what the causation is, but the majority of them are unattended. That could be unattended due to distraction from a telephone, to children, to misuse of alcohol or drugs. It could be a number of things.
I want to move on again to the issue of your relationships with the community, communications, and the joint efforts that you make. For a start, your both organisations seek volunteers.
Yes.
The police, first of all, is that a cost-cutting effort, seeking volunteer policemen?
We've actually had volunteers in the police service for a number of years, and that goes way back to special constables and the inception of special constabulary. So we've had volunteers in some way, shape or form probably since World War II. And as a result, it's not something new. What is new to ourselves is how much we are using volunteers for. So we're trying to, on a regular basis, look at opportunities where we can develop the use of volunteers. So that is the new aspect. But obviously what we are doing is sharing volunteers now with the fire service.
Could I just, a little definition here of the volunteer policemen. Special constables we're all used to, and they're unpaid.
Yes.
And community police support officers.
At the minute, we don't have any volunteer community support officers or police community support officers. Lincolnshire Police are looking at that at the minute. It's not something that we've started to look at the minute, but we are looking at all sorts of opportunities to use volunteers.
But those officers usually are paid?
PCSOs?
Yes.
Yeah. In Humberside Police, we have obviously full-time and part-time employed members of staff in that role.
And of fully warranted police officers, warrant card holding police officers, is that number rising or falling?
It's reduced in the last 3 or 4 years to what it once was in warranted officers, but obviously what we're trying to do is complement what's already currently in place. It's not a case of trying to replace employed members of staff by volunteers.
And what volunteers are you sharing with the fire service?
Do you want to answer that for you?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
The volunteers that we're sharing, the volunteers that have been recruited by the police but are also willing to do work with the fire service as well. So they're members of the community that want to engage their time productively in volunteering, and they obviously will do that on behalf of the fire service and the police. So when they're going out in a specific T-shirt that's dual badged police and fire volunteer. And
how can people get involved in this? It seems like a very useful thing to do. What sort of person are you looking for to do this volunteering work?
A wide range of people really, all different age categories, different experiences, different backgrounds, because everybody brings something different to the role of a volunteer. And obviously as a service, the fire service and the police service, we look at that individual through the recruitment process, and then we tailor their experience and their backgrounds to the jobs that we have for them to do.
Presumably nobody with a criminal conviction?
Ideally not, but obviously we will do the relevant checks and background checks as a result.
Presumably some sort of minimal health and fitness standard?
Not necessarily, no.
We, like Claire's alluded to, we've got a wide range, but what we are actively looking at is young people. We would like to get some more young people involved in the volunteer service, and certainly those that are currently going through education or they're not currently fulfilling something full time. It's a good opportunity for them to do something to gain those experiences of life that would be rewarding to an employer.
You also, as well as jointly recruiting volunteers, you're sending out joint patrols.
Yeah, we've just started recently having a joint patrol between the police and the ambulance service on a Friday and Saturday night, and that's around like a triage service with regards to incidents.
So forgive me, just explain triage.
Triage is where the vehicle will turn up, the two occupants, paramedic and a police officer, will make an assessment of what they're dealing with, and if they need further resources they will request them, or if not, deal with the incident that they are. We're looking at expanding that to involve the fire service, and the fire service undertake things like lives, not speaking to yourselves, but we're also looking at things like the assistance of the fire brigade entering properties where we have some difficulty getting there quickly and we haven't got the correct equipment. So we're looking at as much as we can do joint training and other initiatives where we can work together.
So that sounds like, I mean, that scenario that you've just described is an adventure in itself. That would be a matter of effectively firemen with search warrants?
No, because there are powers that the fire service have to enter properties, likewise as there are for police officers.
I see. Okay. We're approaching the end. What would be your recommendations for the people, well, of Humberside generally, but you're both specifically for North East Lincolnshire, to remain safe, firstly, from other people?
To stop them becoming victims of crime.
To stop them from becoming victims of crime.
I mean, obviously we were trying to communicate and give these crime prevention messages to as many people as possible. So first and foremost, engage with ourselves. There are a wide variety of opportunities to communicate with ourselves: internet, social media. Go to any of the forums or meetings that police staff and fire service are going to. And listen to some of those messages, and if you've got any concerns, pick up the phone, we'll give you some advice.
And just where are those fora?
The forums,
yep.
They're advertised on the internet site, and there's posters and leaflets that will be distributed out, and we do obviously come across local ward councillors, so we'll give those the messages as well to advertise certain meetings.
And obvious things like lock the door when you leave the house, keep the windows closed, and just don't walk down any dark alleys. Lighted areas, but again we're with the local authority to where we've got problem areas to increase the lighting, so we're looking at all opportunities for that. But yes, lock your doors, lock your windows, don't put things on display, don't walk down dark areas, and just listen to those prevention messages as they come out. And Claire, how do we keep ourselves safe from things that aren't quite as predictable as human beings, the sort of forces of nature, I suppose, are what you're defending us from?
I think one of the main things again is engage with us, engage with the fire service to get on the prevention messages, attend the forums that Will's mentioned. Obviously every station that you come across is a community station. You can pop in, you can speak to us, but the three main messages we give is prevention, detection and escape. If
one's allowed just to pop into a fire station, is one allowed to slide down the pole?
Unfortunately not.
That's very regrettable.
It is.
Prevention and detection, what do you advise on detection?
Detection would be smoke detectors in appropriate places in your property, but we emphasise prevention more than detection because it is the prevention that's going to stop the fire in the first place rather than waiting for it to occur.
And if one does find a fire in one's property, what's one to do? What's the advice?
Get out, stay out, call 999.
Close doors, close windows?
If you can, yes. If you can turn a cooker off, brilliant. If you can't, get out, stay out is the main message and call 999.
And if you find a burglar in your house?
Get out, stay out, call 999.
Englishman's home is his castle. One doesn't pick off one's grandfather's cutlass from over the fireplace and strike the man down?
Yes, but what I would say is that we don't want you to be a double victim of crime of being assaulted as well, so please get out and call us.
Okay. That's very kind of you. Thank you both very much for joining us. Claire Tate, Will Jenkins, I think we feel a little safer in your hands this winter. That's all from this hot topic. I hope you'll join us again next time. Goodbye.